See if you guys are afraid to admit it. But I am afraid to admit that I am a wrestling fan
Mm,
in public. Is that bad?
yeah.
Are you ready? Womp womp.
Hey, what's going on, Duckers? Welcome to our September recording of a Ducking Wrestling podcast. I am the Rowdy Texan Abroad here with my two bromigos. We got George, Mr. Too Hard, Too Fast. We got Lathan Hall, and we are ready to get it rolling, baby. Guys, how are y'all doing? How do you say howdy in Spanish?
Oh, that's a good question.
We got Tio Howdy over here.
Hey, Tito. Oh, no, Tio. Yeah.
Oh, and as y'all can tell, we started the show off. This is our first recording since the passing, the unfortunate, untimely passing of Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, and also Terry Funk. I'm representing the Terry Funk jersey or t-shirt today. And, real quick, guys, I know, we're here to talk about SummerSlam 92, but just a real quick favorite Bray Wyatt memory. And if you have a favorite Terry Funk memory, just real quick, and then we'll get started.
Real quick, it looks like I have like a U-shaped bald head. Like I have the side hair.
You look like you have a skullet. Oh shit. Yeah, so George, what's a good Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk memory?
Bray Wyatt for sure has to be actually seeing him in person for the Royal Rumble with LA Knight. I think because like it's more like sentimental reasons. Like I got to see him with my son, and then my son was used to be like super scared of him until that match, and then he was like an instant, Bray Wyatt fan. So
That match was cool.
definitely, yeah.
What about Terry Funk? Do you have a memory?
The tag team match with Mick Foley, yeah, or I don't know who he was playing at that time, but then with the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn the dumpster match.
Yeah, that we covered
Sure.
at our WrestleMania 14 podcast where I proclaimed, and I stand by it even more so now, Terry Funk greater than Ric Flair. Lathan, what about you, man? What you got?
Oh man, so many memories whenever I think about Wyndham. I think the best one that sticks out to me, or a few that stick. Well, in totality of the Firefly Funhouse, it was a phase where like my son started watching wrestling with me at around 3 or 4 years old. But every time he heard the music start to play for the Funhouse, freaked him out. Cheeriest music in the world, and he would run clear across the house in like 3 seconds. So that's always one thing I've always remembered about my fondest memories of Bray Wyatt. But just like George said, it was fun. At the time you don't realize it, but we got to be there for his last match. Even though, to be fair, half the time, Art, we were in the beer line trying to get Bud Light.
We were.
We just got back, and the bell had rung at the end of the match. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh man, but no, that was definitely it's in retrospect one of my favorite memories. Just happy to be there to watch him perform, and to have him have that one last comeback. As far as Terry Funk goes, there's not too many memories I remember of him. I remember the first time I heard about him, he was Chainsaw Charlie. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know what this guy is. And then I saw him on the Beyond the Mat. I think it was a documentary that they did.
Yeah.
And they kind of gave like a brief history lesson on Terry Funk through that. And so it made me go out to find some of his older matches. But one crazy one was in Japan with Mick Foley, where they were throwing themselves on barbed wire and grenades and stuff. And I was like, dude, This is awesome. My dad said it's still fake though, but it resonated with me. So,
Yeah.
but no, that's probably one of my favorite memories of Terry Funkster there.
Yeah, I think with Bray Wyatt, you know, when he came back and did the Firefly Funhouse, you know, my daughter. So it's been a couple of years. So she was like three or so. No, oh crap, 2 or 3. I can't remember at this point. But I actually got her this for her birthday. I want to say it was when she turned 2 because she's 5 now. Because she loved the Firefly Funhouse, all of that. Like the music would hit and she would, wherever she was at in the house, she would stop what she was doing and she would run to the living room and she would say, "Let me in." So that's gonna always be my favorite memory, not to mention his in-ring work. His creativity was just, I mean, honestly, it's kind of unparalleled. And then Terry Funk, my favorite memory of his, and I think it was in ECW. There was a match where he started yelling to the crowd to throw him a chair.
And oh yeah, before he was in the ring with him, he just started throwing all the chairs.
Right, all the chairs, and he's looking and he just falls down and like gets out of the ring and just like is laying there because every person in the crowd just starts throwing chairs. There's probably 3-4 dozen chairs in the ring and stuff. And
I felt bad for whoever had to lay out and take all those chairs while they were underneath that pile. That was
I want to say it was like Tommy Dreamer or somebody who just like got bombarded and just laid there and was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna die now. So but yeah, you know, Terry Funk, older guy, you knew it was coming at some point, as you do with most of the older wrestlers and stuff. Bray Wyatt, heartbreaking. He was so young with young kids and everything. So yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I would recommend anybody listening, watching, go back. It was our first episode where we covered WrestleMania 14 because we did a pretty deep dive in us talking about Terry Funk and how kind of we felt about him. I still think that over the longevity of Terry Funk's career, he's greater than Ric Flair. But yeah, take the time and go check it out. So guys, y'all ready to get in the SummerSlam 92? I know y'all are still watching it right now as we're recording.
Yeah, I'm still watching.
I finished it this morning. So last night I realized like I hadn't finished it. So I'm sitting in here, I'm watching, I'm taking notes, and the Ultimate Warrior Macho Man match is up, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I guess, you know, main event, WWF Championship and stuff. And I hit pause to go do something. I come back and I look and I'm like, no, there's still over an hour of pay-per-view left. And I looked, it was like 12:30. And I wanted to get up, make sure I got up to watch College Game Day this morning, which I'm glad I did. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to finish it tomorrow when, like after College Game Day. But it was weird too, because I thought, so as you can tell, I am a fighting Texas Aggie, Texas A&M all the way, baby. I thought they kicked off at 11. So I was mentally preparing myself. Okay, 11 to, you know, roughly 2 o'clock, the game. Give me a couple of hours.
Mentally preparing.
Right. I even told my wife, I'm like, hey, it's good. You know, with A&M kicking off at 11, I don't like to start drinking that early because I'm going to drink all day and watch football, and knowing we had this. And
I don't like that either.
But laying in bed last night, I was like, I need to double check. And I looked, it was like, oh no, they kick off at 3. So I'm like, well, shit, I got to replan my whole like day basically. So yeah, I watched College Game Day and then finished off the show. But yeah. So let's get into it, guys. So the first thing that came up on there was was a quick advertisement for Ico Pro. I have no I remember those signs everywhere in the arenas and on the video games. They had the signs and stuff, and I don't know what it was.
I do. I'll fill this one in.
All right, go ahead, Lathan.
It was Vince McMahon's failed attempt to go into the supplement industry. It was a crossbreed because right now you got to remember it's 92, and so he was trying to push off the WBF, the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Oh yeah,
which is why we're introduced to like Lex Luger later on and a couple other guys. I think one was Forga, another one from that same league. Anyways, but like it was basically they had the WWF and they had the WBF, and then the WBF, one of the things they were selling through there was the supplements that they wanted to sell, like protein powders and whatever was the hype in 1992 for supplementation. But it was absolutely horrible. Like I remember Mr. Perfect Son talking about it on
Curtis
the documentary.
Axel, Michael
Curtis Axel,
Cuddy,
he was talking about it, like how his dad had all this Ico Pro stuff. He tried it and kept on breaking like the blender. He's trying to mix it and stuff, and it was super thick and it never mixed well. But then again, it's one of those taking a step back. It's 92. Shit wasn't working right. Math wasn't math, and yeah, it was a different time. So, but yeah, that was Ico Pro. I forgot about that until like we go back and we deep dive on these old pay-per-views. I see the flag in the background. I'm like, oh man, I remember that now. That was a failed attempt at a lot of everything.
Yeah, as soon as it came up on the screen, I was like, I remember those signs were everywhere in like the arenas and stuff. It was crazy, and I had no idea what it was. Like,
yeah.
So I guess that makes sense. It was a supplement, which when you think about it, world bodybuilding, pro wrestling. I mean, it kind of makes sense for them to have, supplements because it seems like it would be an easy kind of product to sell. But
yeah, well, remember this is before the steroid era too, or before the steroid trial. So it was actually
not before the steroid era.
Sorry, it was definitely during the steroid era before the trial. And so everybody, you can look at most of the wrestlers here, like Nels, Ultimate Warrior, they clearly beefed up on something. But, it's the supplements and the vitamins and saying your prayers and not the other injectable exogenous ones that you don't talk about.
Yeah. So that one kind of got me. George, do you remember Ico Pro?
I remember the promo for it, but that's it. I never knew what it was either. But as soon as the tagline was said, for people that care about their bodies or people something like that, I was like, oh, I remember something like that, but never knew what it was.
George is trying to figure out where he can get some.
Yeah. In 1992, that's where you can get it from.
Yeah, it was funny kind of going back and watching this because 92, I would have been for SummerSlam. I would have just turned 7.
Yeah.
So I know Lathan was 7. George, you were what, 5?
4? 92, I think I would be 5.
Okay. So yeah, so this is really my first time watching this. Because I mean in 92 we weren't I at 7 years old, I knew the Big Boss Man again because my dad was a cop. I had the wrestling buddy for him and I would watch stuff when I could, but yeah, outside of that, this was a new watch for me. And there were a couple of times I stopped it and I was like, Allison, come look at this. It's kind of cool.
Well, I don't know, man. Look, Vince McMahon opens up with saying the SummerSlam you thought you would never see. Well, after watching most of it, I wish it was the SummerSlam I never did see.
The SummerSlam you didn't want to see. Oh man. Well, that's like they're going through the crowd or the line out front and they're talking to people and it made me realize like I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, man, 90s fans were kind of silly as fuck.
Yeah.
Like they are like so like and I don't know if it's just like the 90s, the
It's
early
just the people from British.
that was the other. I was like, I don't know what
You know, they're hardcore fanboys over there in a whole different level.
Yeah, we'll get to that later on.
There's a little kid in the opening that says, "I expect the British Bulldog is gonna win whether he likes it or not." And I'm just like, what the fuck is that kind of threat or what's going on here? What kind of prediction is that? Or a threat?
That's like the worst threat ever. Like you're gonna win or else. Like I want to win. It's not
right?
It's not like I want to win.
Who doesn't like winning, whether you like it or not?
But that was in.
Like, oh shit! I won. Damn.
Well, I hope that kid's happy.
Yeah.
It's like the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Fuck! I win again.
Well, going back to George, you know, talking about like the shit Vince was saying. Like, I thought I wrote this down. I'm like, Vince was fucking stupid. Like the stuff he's saying and like the intro and everything with Bobby the Brain Heenan, like Bob, like the Brain is so good and Vince is so bad that they come off just Vince looks stupid in that intro.
Yeah, it's announcing and color commentary has never been a strong point. He's good about one thing I value about Vince to a certain extent is he's good about having a vision and having an idea of how things can play out that actually, for the most part, works pretty solid. And then sometimes his flaw is that he doesn't know when to just like let it stop, and he just keeps on going with it. And it's like, no, this was so good, and he's like chocolate titties, and then it just drops.
And we are officially like 15 minutes in before Lathan mentions chocolate titties. So
it's good shit, pal.
George, were you impressed by Vince McMahon's opening and commentary?
No, but I didn't hate it. Like once it got into the commentary stuff, but the opening did suck and like, well, like I don't know what Bobby said or what that's his name, right? Bobby the Brain
Heenan, yeah.
So he's wearing that crown thing, and he said something funny, but then Vince killed it with something stupid. It was just like it didn't go. It didn't like it wasn't funny at all. It like killed the moment. And I think Bobby the Brain kind of like realized it, like, oh, that killed the moment, and he just like gave him like that silent, like, oh fuck, where do we go from
here? Yeah. So we go into the first match, which was Money Inc. versus the Legion of Doom, and I thought the entrances were cool. I mean, this is like one of the, and it's, I don't know if y'all noticed this or not. This is one of the only matches in the entire night where both sides of the match get a full entrance.
Oh, I didn't actually realize that. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, the LOD, and so Money Inc. comes out, with Jimmy Hart and Ted DiBiase, IRS coming out, and then the Road Warriors come out on the motorcycles. You look back at the like iconic moments that you constantly see throughout the years, right? Where they show just a clip of stuff, and this was one of them. Them coming out on the motorcycles was cool as shit. But who the fuck was Rocco?
Rocco was a dummy.
But like,
dummy.
Did we need Rocco? Like what? I was so confused, and maybe if I had watched Raw, they didn't have Raw at the time, so it's not like you could watch the Monday prior, so maybe like Saturday night's main event or something, the Saturday night prior. But I have no idea who Rocco was. It was just a freaky, like, Goosebumps puppet.
Rocco was a failed attempt to try to get LOD merch sold through their name and likeness. Like, and apparently, I don't know if you ever watched the Dark Side of the Ring for the Road Warriors, but they make mention of it in there. And Paul Owens like, listen, they gave us the doll to ride out to the ring with it, and we're supposed to take it back to the States with us, and we never saw it again once it got on the plane.
Oh, I do remember that. Oh, okay. I do remember that part of the Dark Side of the Ring. Yeah, okay. But
I was like, it's like, being children when this came out, and like none of us really have full access to wrestling. It's always like clips like that remind me of these moments that happened before I got into being a full fan. So like when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember them talking about that, and I was like, whatever happened to that dummy? And then they talked about the dummy. Fucking dummy.
Wait, which dummy? The actual puppet or Vince McMahon?
Yes.
George, what'd you think of the puppet riding on the handlebars down to the right?
I kind of liked it actually, but here's the thing, and a little maybe controversial or unpopular thing that I'm gonna say. I was never a really big fan of the Legion of Doom. They kind of bored me. I never really cared. So as soon as they came out, I was checked out. I was like,
wow.
yeah. So yeah, I was like, but so the most entertaining part of the match for me was the puppet.
I'm gonna buy a Road Warrior shirt just to wear every time I'm around. Just
listen, I like their entrance and I like their costumes, but once they started wrestling, I was checked out.
Their costumes.
Listen, they ain't no bushwhackers.
George, I know you don't like you said fuck the Road Warriors, so we'll move on from that one. But nice.
Listen, it makes sense, like what Lathan's saying. If I just caught them at the tail end when they're already dunzos, then
yeah.
But I never saw. I guess but even this match, I'm not sure. Like I didn't enjoy it at all.
Really,
but I could have already been biased about it, so I don't know.
So I like watching this match. Like, I mean, one of the things that I realized was that IRS didn't get the credit he deserved. That dude, like, he was really good in the match. Like, he carried the team with him and DiBiase. Like, DiBiase, I think, had the mic, stuff, the personality. IRS really kind of didn't, but IRS was the workhorse in that ring, and for a big guy, that dude was quick.
Oh, definitely. Him and DiBiase collectively were really entertaining as like a tag team, and then the way that they had the right chemistry together to really like be entertaining consistently when they run on the TV screen and in the ring for sure.
What about you, George? What'd you think, man?
Trash.
You're just a hater today. Did you read my book on how to be a hater in wrestling? Like,
I decided, I think, in this episode I'm gonna be a heel.
He's a
I'm gonna trash the people of British. I'm gonna trash the Legion of Doom and Gloom. SummerSlam 92 blows bagpipes.
And it was weird because watching this match, like I always remember Ted DiBiase actually being pretty good in the ring, but honestly, he seemed like kind of the least athletic out of the four guys in the match.
It's weird. We'll get more into it later, but you can tell, like, for context, like the early '90s was like a weird transitional phase for like the older wrestlers and it's weird at the time because they're all like in their early 40s, late 30s, and they're the older wrestlers of the time already. and like they don't have the same, not the same work longevity that they're known for having nowadays.
Yeah,
Most of the main events right now are early 40s, late or going into their 50s, and still hitting the mark. Like John Cena is about to be 55. He's back on TV.
yeah, it's a fair point. It is kind of weird to think about it, how you look at some of these matches, and these guys that you would consider kind of old timers are what people in their prime are hitting now.
Yeah.
Like AJ Styles is what, like 40,
45.
free Teddy B. I don't, what is Teddy B? Because I don't want a free one, or is that Teddy 13?
Free Ted DiBiase and his sketchy
Oh yeah.
investments.
I was like, who's Teddy 13? That may be his prison number. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
There wasn't a whole lot to this match. I really enjoyed it. We end up with a Legion of Doom victory, which you kind of saw. I mean, opening match, the crowd favorite's going to get the win. So, George, what was your rating on this match?
I'm gonna go with a 1.2.
Damn.
I'm telling you, man, I was checked out. Biased. That one's a pretty biased review. I was checked out.
Okay. All right. Lathan, what'd you give it, man?
I'm giving it 2.5. Like it's a good start to the show. I mean, Wembley, the UK fans are a lot different as far as like their passion for wrestling. Like it's a really interesting fan pocket. So they kind of brought a little bit more energy to the match itself and being entertained and involved in the matches. So it did help as far as like what it looked like on TV when you're looking back at it, right? Kind of adds to the moment.
Yeah, see, I kind of disagree with y'all. I gave this one a 4.1. I really enjoyed the match.
It wasn't the most entertaining tag team match.
I thought it was good. But all the guys in it, like, they looked strong. It was a fast-paced match for the size that the guys were. It kept me entertained in it, and so yeah, I gave it a 4.1. I don't know. Maybe if y'all had watched it, with some more interest instead of like, shit, I got to get this done before the show.
No, man, I don't know. I guess also like SummerSlam. I'm thinking like it's gonna be banger after banger, but I don't know. I wasn't into this one.
Well, it's
or
okay.
The next one,
It's
or the
okay.
next one.
It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. So, the next thing that we have is Mean Gene interviewing Ric Flair. Man, I forgot that Ric Flair was there at this time. I don't know why I always think it's later on, like mid-90s when he's there. But was WWF Ric Flair? I mean, it was obviously a huge miss. But whose fault was it? Was it the WWF's fault, or was it Ric Flair's fault for how bad this was just a swing and a miss situation?
Well, like, it's kind of one of those like, if you hear that essence, so if you hear Ric Flair talk sometimes, you can kind of see where he can kind of be. Early 90s WWE was kind of like Ric Flair was an actual person when they were still dealing with characters in WWF at the time.
That's a really good point.
We got Big Boss Man. We got occupational characters all over the place. And here comes the greatest Southern champion that they had for like the better part of 10 years into this new organization. So it's like it just clashed weird. You got the South being controlled by the North, and like it's not oil and water at that point, right? You're trying to make shit out of chicken salad.
Yeah,
chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point about Ric Flair. He was Ric Flair. He wasn't, a character. He was his own person. And now, too, thinking about it, did Ric Flair really want to be there? I know he had issues with the NWA and everything, and WCW, early WCW at this point. So yeah, maybe he didn't want to be there. He felt he had to be there out of necessity, but that's
he got to keep on working. He doesn't want to fight Japan all the time. So
yeah,
that's the only thing he got.
That's a really good point. What do you think, George?
I don't know anything about this stuff. Like I thought it was all just like a scripted thing with Ric Flair like being upset.
Well, no. So he came in. He had issues with Turner. Well, I don't even know if it was Turner at this point. But he had issues. Oh, that's right. It was Jim Herd in early WCW, and he had like a falling out with them, and so he came into the WWF, and he actually brought the original big gold NWA WCW championship with him and wore it on TV because he had put down like a $25,000 deposit on it, and he felt like, this is mine because I put this deposit on there. And then like,
they weren't gonna give it back to him either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then they sent him. That was during the time too that WCW had they had redone their championship belt, and that was when Ron Simmons won and became the first black world champion. And yeah, it was kind of a weird time, but yeah, Lathan, I think you're right. He was just kind of out of place there. And, I think he was there out of necessity. So yeah, George, that's kind of the backstory on it.
Yeah, because like I have from the get-go, they were like the controversial match, but they didn't really explain what the controversy was, or at least I didn't get it. Am I way off or what? Like,
no. Well, so I think we're kind of we're conflating what was happening behind the scenes and everything with Ric Flair coming in with like, he came in and he won the WWF title pretty quick. He won it in a Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah. With a tear in my eye.
Yeah, with a tear in my eye. That's right. This is the greatest moment. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he won it in the Royal Rumble, and then they had, the controversy that they were using going into this match. It's all wrestling controversy, but him coming into the WWE, WWF was what was where the real controversy was at. And Ric Flair, traditionally, this run in the WWF, WWE was kind of considered a failure for Ric Flair. Like, he really didn't enjoy it. There wasn't he came in essentially to get a match with Hogan. And it never happened. Yeah, because they ended up going into WrestleMania it was that year. Earlier in the year, they went into WrestleMania, and Flair fought Savage and Hogan fought Sid Justice. And so they never, that was Ric Flair's whole thing with wanting to come in, was to face Hogan, which you want Hogan and Flair in the early 90s. That's what you want. And it just never transpired. So that was more what I was talking about, not specifically like what he was talking about.
I don't know anything of that.
We just went on like a 10-minute rant, and George is like, "Oh yeah, I don't know anything."
Like, all right, cool.
Well, I'll tell you what George knows about is the greatest performer in WWF history, a man that we call Virgil. In his interview, getting ready to take on that man Nails, where Virgil, did y'all notice Virgil had like the boogers running down? Like, he had like poured water and it like came around and pooled, and like he just had boogers.
Yeah, that was gross. That was one of those times I regret having high definition. They need to see that.
Right, 1992, you probably would never have even noticed it.
No, on my tube TV, I would have been perfectly fine.
But yeah, so I have the note, like, I'm watching his interview and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why Virgil's getting an interview. And then he goes, just like this British crowd, I'm too legit to quit. And I was like, never mind. I have no interest in him whatsoever now. And he even messed it up.
He was trying to be cool and trying to get over, but at this point, he's not Ted DiBiase's butler, so it's harder for him to shine on his singles run. This is like the babyface Virgil.
It was weird because then he's like, too legit to quit. Like, he does it all like kind of awkward and like, all right, whatever, dude. Yeah, I never really had any interest in Virgil whatsoever outside of Ted DiBiase's escort.
No, it's okay. The creative team didn't have any interest in him clearly.
But he got a full entrance in his match. Like, Nails, who they're pushing in his feud with the Big Boss Man, is already in the ring, and then you got Virgil's stupid ass running out to the ring with his pants looking like a damn barbershop pole.
I think that was an accident. I think it just happened to be just how they had edited down the actual walk-ins, because I can imagine that like Nell's walk-in was quite boring and annoying, and they just like, it's like, okay, let's just give Virgil the full walk down this time. Like, charming white guy on TV.
It was
weird.
I don't know. This was I mean, I put on my notes, I just put hot garbage. They give like Nails and Nails looks like a jailbird Louis C.K., by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, so they give Virgil an interview, they give him an entrance, and then he just gets the shit kicked out of him in the ring. I don't know. This did not seem like it was a warranted SummerSlam match.
Yeah, there's a couple of extra matches on here that didn't warrant being SummerSlam matches from what we know of them. But it's, you know, looking in the context of it being the 90s, it just wasn't what it was and what they had to do. Right? And so, you know, looking at it like that, I just kind of look at it, try to find enjoyment, and then I'm done. I'll just move on to the next match then. Yeah. I know George already hates this match, so we want to get to talk to him about it.
I do. As soon as he did the too legit to quit, I was over it, because it reminded me of like Full House, where it's like cut it out. I was like, is that what he's doing? But then they cut two Nails into the ring. I was like, well, this guy looks ridiculous. So this is a bathroom match.
He had his hair. He had what little hair he had like parted down the middle, like the going on either side, but it was all like fucking stringy and shit.
I honestly expected Virgil to go in there and destroy that Nails guy. I was thinking if this was like if Virgil had anything to do with the Big Boss Man, because they kept mentioning him, like maybe they were like friends or something. This is like a build, like you know, I'll take out your friend first and then I'm gonna go against you. I thought that's what maybe, but did they have anything to do with each other at all?
Obviously Nails and the Big Boss Man were feuding because, you know, a corrections officer and a prisoner.
Oh yeah, but the whole Virgil thing, like Virgil at all related to the Big Boss Man? So was that like
they were trying to play it off like he was a friend, and that was about the extent of it. So I guess we kind of have to rate this match, even though
No, we don't.
We do. We do have to rate it. It was an actual match. There was an actual 1, 2, 3 winner. So I gave the match a 0.25.
I gave it a poop emoji.
I don't know how to calculate that as a number.
It's 0. It's 0.
Come on, you got to
get. As a matter of fact, make sure you put it in here in the edit that there's a poop emoji right there when you actually show my rating. That's my rating.
Did not even like it doesn't even warrant a number. It's such a low number. It's just like zeros, and then at the very end is a 1. So, George, what did you give it?
A 0.01, and it made me sad.
Those aren't zeros. It's just like sad one. Yeah, that was awful. Speaking of awful, next thing we have up is Lord Alfred Hayes out in front of the Macho Man's locker room, and if you look, he tries to open the Macho Man's door, and it's open, and he's like, "Oh no!" He's like pulling it so it hits, and I'm just fucking dumb.
Yeah. A for effort. This was just as entertaining as the last match I watched.
Yeah. You're right. It carried over just how really terrible some of the shit you like. There's some really quality stuff in this pay-per-view that we'll get to. That is like scraping the bottom of the barrel for like, hey, we need to fill up, some time here. So let's let's have Nails squash Virgil, and then we're gonna have Lord Alfred Hayes stand outside of a door that we put a sign on. Like that's like the epitome of, hey y'all, go ahead and take a bathroom break. We'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, that's how it boiled down to. But it was cool at the time. It was just somebody that put some glitter shit on his hand to make it look like somebody's pushing that door closed.
Well, it looked like he jiggles the handle like just to show that it's locked. And was like, clearly it's open.
Yeah,
Clearly.
That was awful. And I don't know. I liked Lord Alfred Hayes later on in his career, but he's just fucking hokey as shit in this. And and really you kind of think about it, and like they're in Britain. You have Lord Alfred Hayes, and he's got like 2 moments in this entire show where he does anything.
I mean, I guess it goes to show how good of a talent he was at the time, but they decided to at least give him 2 very small seconds. Representation, right?
He was the token entertainer for their trip to England.
You gotta have somebody there for the home team, right?
But so next up, they actually kind of started building back towards the good stuff. They had Mean Gene and Sensational Sherry, and man, Sensational Sherry was pretty awesome. Like her man.
Dare I say sensational?
And dad joke of the night goes to. But she was good. Like I forgot how entertaining like Sensational Sherry was, and with her mannerisms, and they're showing the clip of like Rick Martel coming out and like winking at her, and she's like, and then she turns back and like winks at him. Like her mannerisms and stuff I thought were good. So they started working their way back with Mean Gene and Sensational Sherry. What'd y'all think?
At this point, I kind of had tuned out for a second. I was preoccupied with LJ for a minute. I got back into it when they started coming to the ring, and I saw Rick Martel with his pink knee pads, his pink pants. I was like, "What is this? I don't remember this Rick Martel ever."
He had the big button that said, "Yes, I am a model." Like, God damn it, dude.
Oh man, he's to his credit, he is underappreciated for well, not even underappreciated. He just got a bad series of accidents towards like the highlight of his career that could have, like, if he wasn't injured, I wonder how much further he could have gone. Because he was such a good talent in the ring. The match with him and Shawn Michaels across the board, which we'll talk about here a little bit more in a second, was super awesome. Like, it was definitely one of the more entertaining matches tonight, for sure. And not just because HBK was in it, just because Rick Martel and Sherry all brought their own entertainment spectrums to the match itself, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. George, did you have any thoughts on Mean Gene and Sherry's interview?
I hated it. No. No, I like it built up the match to where it made me feel like, okay, the SummerSlam might be entertaining after all. So it did build up, and then they had like the whole neither one can punch themselves in the punch themselves in the face, punch each other in the face. So I thought, okay, that's gonna be cool to watch. I feel like they didn't really play too much into it to like towards the end, but it really built it. I was looking forward to the match after that. Like I was invested again, kind of like Ted DiBiase's.
Yeah.
Like Ted DiBiase invested in Medicare.
Volleyball, baby.
So we have the next match up that we've been kind of alluding to. We have Rick Martel versus the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. And throughout the shows and everything, people will know I am a diehard, longtime Shawn Michaels fan. I like this version of Shawn Michaels. I like the old Shawn Michaels entrance music with Sherry Martel singing it. I think that was cool. But I wonder, so watching the match, and I think Rick Martel, this is another one. Rick Martel didn't get an entrance. He was just in the ring. And Shawn Michaels got the full entrance, which, okay, cool. I mean, I get it, but what happened to Rick Martel?
I didn't know of Rick Martel. So historically speaking, I didn't know of Rick Martel until he was in WCW. And he had kind of played back up the model character, but he was, I think the only match I remember seeing of Rick Martel was when he was fighting for the television title for a while against Booker T, and then he messed up his knee in one of the matches during the pay-per-view, and then he was just gone. That was it.
Yeah, I don't remember Rick Martel in WCW. I remember him early mid 90s in WWF with the model, and he would come out with that spray thing. But yeah, that was about it. But I don't remember him in WCW at all. But I wasn't watching WCW, so he was kind of there. He was having a good match. He was a good wrestler, but yeah, he was just kind of gone.
If anything, I remember hearing that he was more injury prone after a while, because it was like the second time he had the same injury in WCW. It just happened to be during that match that it happened, and then basically he just retired after that. So, and then I remember, like you were saying with the perfume spray, that I was later introduced to that Rick Martel in WWF, like through old vintage videos and stuff in the early 2000s, but I didn't even realize he had been wrestling that long. So it was kind of interesting to see like he had an actual first career in WWF at the time.
What'd you think, George?
This is the first time I've ever heard of Rick Montel Jordan. This Mark. Yeah, see, this is the first time I've ever heard of him. I thought he was really good in the
later on in life. Is that the right Martel?
Yeah, he had a augmentation as well. Clearly,
no, but he, I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good match with him, so I could see like he could have been pretty, awesome later on, or if there was more to him. But that's the only time I've ever seen him or heard of him.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all I got for him.
The end. Maybe Lathan will know this because I don't. Shawn Michaels has always been iconic with the heart pants with the little break in them and stuff. And what the fuck is he wearing in early on? Like it's just got like random zebra
like slashes in the pant and the trunks and shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it was supposed to be. Like if it was, I don't know.
Well, I think this is, well, you have to keep in mind, this is right after his turn with Marty. So I guess they're trying to just figure it out right now, how to get him stylized, because he's still wearing those weird gloves too. And it's a weird phase. It's just like that one time in college. Like everybody has that one weird phase to go through. We don't talk about it. We just know it's there, and then we just kind of let it settle off into the sunset and just be regret. Just like that mullet. Oh my god, that was a horrible looking mullet.
But you know what? That looks like every 13-year-old to 19-year-old boy right now. So,
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
kind of an abrupt stop, but thank you to our sponsor, who has yet to actually give us any money for his sponsorship. But whatever. So yeah, I love early on HBK, and I love Shawn Michaels, period. But yeah, his ring attire for this is kind of questionable. Weird. But speaking of ring attire, for 1992, Sensational Sherry's outfit was kind of fucking wild.
I saw her booty cheeks.
Yeah, I saw them nalgas.
I saw a lot of nalgas. Even Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel, whatever his name is.
I thought that too. I was like, all right, so our first episode, WrestleMania 14, George is like, oh, his pants are down. Oh, he's running ropes. And I'm like, here we go. Shawn Michaels got his butt cheeks out again.
Cover your ears, Raquel. But I saw a lot of nalgas. Oh, never mind. Cut that out. Cut that out.
That one's getting clipped. Am I not? I mean, right? Like, Sensational Sherry's butt cheeks hanging out and thong and everything was pretty risky for 1992, yeah. Right?
Oh, absolutely. That was that's why it's pay-per-view. That was some slight Skinamax, if you will.
Dude, like, if I 7-year-old me, not really interested. If I had been 14 at that time, I would have been
totally interested. You have piqued my attention.
Yeah, I'd have been like, what match?
And there was an awkward moment where they pointed out, but I think they try to make it better. I think there's some material missing from Sensational Sherry's ring attire.
Yeah,
and they're like,
when Shawn Michaels is carrying her out, and what does Bobby Heenan say? He's like, I think Mercury is out tonight, and I'm like, Uranus?
That's what I was thinking. And then Vince, I guess it's Vince, that says, no, that's the moon.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a lot more innocent than what I was thinking. But yeah,
it was intelligent. It was intelligent commentary for the time.
It was. That was because I immediately went to they're going to make a Uranus joke. It was like, oh no, that's the moon. Oh, okay. All right. Good job, guys. I'm glad. Glad y'all did that. But as good as the match was, I really felt like
it could have been better.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's no LOD Money Inc. But I feel like the ending of it dragged with Sherry and fainting, and then Shawn's carrying her, and then Martel's carrying her, and then you could tell Shawn was getting winded as fuck when they were getting up to the end of it, because I mean, she's not a small woman, and he's like,
well, to be fair, that's not a short walkway either.
No, the Road Warriors rode motorcycles to the ring because they probably would have died if they had walked.
Yeah. Right.
What I didn't get was she pretending to fake? Well, obviously, but
what? No, she really fainted.
No, but was it like? Because then she gets up, like she faints and is like, okay, I get it. Part of the line, the story, whatever. But then she kind of gets up and looks, and then she goes back at it. Were they
Yeah.
trying to like? What I guess what I'm trying to say is like, was she supposed to be faking and everybody knowing that she's faking, or was she just like fainting and then she took a peek to see if the storyline was going according to plan?
I'm gonna assume with her that it was supposed to be like I fainted and like everybody knows she's faking it and all of that. But the ending to me just dragged. Like you can't give fucking Nails an entrance, but goddamn, you're gonna take 10 minutes to get Sensational Sherry's ass up to the ring to throw some water on her and have Shawn Michaels chase off Rick Martel.
To be fair, though, I much rather have a wet Sherry Martel anytime than anything that has to do with nails.
100% agree.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Nails been to prison. I don't want to know what he
Point taken. So so we get a was it a double count out on this one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's just like one of those weird finishes that it never finished. So technically we don't have to rate this match either.
No, we do have to because it was an actual match. So this one's not a bad one to have to
it's a good
rate.
match.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't. I mean, I think the stuff at the end, how long it took, kind of spoiled it for me. But yeah, Latham, what'd you give it?
I'll give it 2 different ratings. So I'll give it 1. If it was just the match and it ended, it probably would have been like a 3.5. But because it dragged out so long, with so much going on at the end, it didn't. It kind of went off the rails altogether. Like I have to give it like a 2.5.
Okay.
It kind of reminds me of like a creative job that Vince McMahon had his hand way too invested into, where it was just like, okay, this is a really good match, but you know what, make it better. And then he went out and explained this ending, and they tried to make it work, and it looked like shit. But we're stuck with it because it came from Vince McMahon. We have to do it.
Yeah.
I feel, yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is where everybody says that he's detached from real life, and this is where it shows. And yeah, it was good for what it was, but like that ending kind of killed it. It took me all the way out the match. So 2.5.
Okay. George, hold it up. Let's see it. It looked like you were scratching a lottery ticket over there.
I give it 2 cheeks.
2.2. Oh shit, that's actually really funny because I gave it a 2.2.
See,
A 2.2 or a 2.200?
2.2. The white stuff. I went Weird Al on that one. So I think we all kind of agreed on that one. I think that's a first in the show history, is that we all like across the board kind of gave it a 2 point. I mean, we were off by 0.3. So
I mean, for so far going into the pay-per-view, this has probably been the most entertaining part of the pay-per-view, outside of like a couple like the Rocco entrance with the motorbikes.
So next up we have the Nasty Boys interview. And
why are they here?
So to me, the Nasty Boys seem very much out of place for WWF 1992.
That's Mid-South Wrestling right there. They need to go back down to Memphis and go back to having fun with Jerry Lawler and that shit, because it did not fit at all. Well, it was weird though.
I disagree. I disagree with that. The Nasty Boys seem way more comfortable, like they should be, in like WWF 1996, 1997. They would fit in a lot better. They just kind of seem really, really out there and I don't want to call them ahead of their time for 1992, but they're kind of ahead of their time for what they are. You know, they really seem out of place.
I see that too. I did appreciate the Nasty Boys in the late 90s versus now. But it was just weird to see them on the show in general because they don't play any role on the show. It was just kind of like, okay, you get this vignette or this promo to talk about why you're not on the show, and then you go home. That's it.
And then they're fucking yelling at Jimmy Hart like, "You got us a title shot, right? You got us."
Oh yeah, baby, I got the title shot.
All right. Yeah, George, were you a Nasty Boys fan?
I'm still a nasty boy.
No, let me rephrase. Hold on.
Still, again, I did not know who the Nasty Boys were, but yeah. So with that said, still the Nasty Boys are greater than the Island Boys.
The Island Boys are Nasty Boys. The Island Boys went too hard, too fast. We'll just too fast, too hard.
Oh my god!
So the next match that we have up is the Beverly Brothers versus the Natural Disasters, Typhoon and Earthquake. Who the fuck are the Beverlys?
And why were they dressed like wizards?
Yeah,
Was one of
I
them
think this
Joe
may have been
Diffie?
like one of the jobber tag teams of the time because I don't ever remember hearing about the Beverlys before or after this match.
But with the one Beverly brother who had a mustache, I'm like, that's motherfucking Joe Diffie right there. I don't care what you say. Like that was, but yeah, like who the fuck were the Beverlys? Obviously, they weren't like an enhancement talent because they have a championship match and it's not a squash match. Like they have a legit full on like, hey, these guys may win the championship style match, but I don't remember them at all.
Yeah, I don't like it's like I don't know when I would have ever seen them again outside of this. And they don't come to any memory. But what does come to memory is a manager, the genius, Manny Poffo.
Yep, that's actually the next thing that I had in here was Lanny Poffo and his poetry. Look,
Yeah,
the dude had, I don't care what anybody ever says. Did he ride on his brother's coattail throughout his career? Absolutely. But the man had a knack for poetry.
absolutely.
He even down to when he inducted the Macho Man into the Hall of Fame, like, and the poem that he did, like, he had a pure knack for poetry.
When the mega powers exploded, the storyline was real. Life's too short to hold a grudge. It's time for us to heal. In triumphant jubilation, we celebrate his name. Finally, the Macho Man is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, definitely.
George, you know who Lanny Poffo is, right?
No, and I hated his poem.
He's so he is the legit real life brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh wow, okay. Oh, okay, get the name now. Yeah.
Yeah. So Randy Poffo is the Macho Man's real name. And everywhere that Macho Man went, the land
Lanny was sure to go.
Yes. That's why I love you.
Oh man, we're poets of our own. Look at that.
George just has this look of disgust on his face.
It's just because I wasn't sure if you guys were being serious about his poems, because that poem he read, I was like, All right, let's move on. Let's keep it
Yeah.
going.
No, like he actually. So the poem was. I mean, yeah, this was kind of meh. But he did poetry as part of his gimmick and stuff, and then he read a poem that he wrote for Macho Man's induction into the Hall of Fame, and it was actually really good. But yeah, he kind of wrote his brother's coattails, but I don't even remember ever seeing a match of Lanny Poffo, and maybe at some point we'll
No,
come across
he was
one.
more of a managerial talking head at that point. I think they tried to give him a workout, but it didn't work out, and he was just he. Where one was more eloquent and the way they read poetry, the other one was a lot better when it came to physicality in the ring. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It was funny. Speaking about in the ring, like every time Vince or Bobby talks about like the Beverlys, they constantly refer to them in the plural. So I don't think they knew which one was which.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And that's what made me think the whole time that they were more of just like a jobber tag team to get them over during this versus anything else. Because like it's kind of one of those times where like they were just a name. They didn't really have independent identities. Like even with not the Hollywood Blondes. What was the Billy Gunn tag team that he
Smoking
was part
Guns.
of? Yeah, they both still had independent names of each other, and just like the Goblins, they were still their own independent wrestlers with their own independent names. But this team didn't have; they were just the Beverlys. So take that for what it's worth.
They look like what you would see today on Raw that are going to get the shit beat out of them by like the Viking Raiders.
Yeah,
but they weren't. I mean, they weren't bad, and maybe it's just the lack of knowledge for that time on who they actually were and what they did and stuff. But yeah, I was not. I had no nothing for the Beverlys, but there was a point in the match that I wrote down, and I'm like, okay, this crowd is alive as fuck. Like they are loud. I'm like, does the WWE enhance the audio for these old pay-per-views for the villains and the baby faces? But then when the natural disasters won and that crowd went ape shit, I was like, okay, never mind. I really think that was the sound that they were doing. Like they were into
they were
it.
loud, especially even for being for an outdoor venue like it was. Like they were loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually that noise fades into this roof and everything, but they came off their seats for this one, and I was like, okay, this is where like the energy exchange is actually really receptive from the crowd, and I guess it's because I don't know if it's because like John Tenta and Avalanche had more credibility from working in New Japan overseas, and they're more susceptible to watching that first versus WWF. But like it was super awesome. Like that, they really brought in the entertainment part of it that kept me watching this match a little bit better than like say the Ted DiBiase IRS match, you know. And plus, it's for a WWE Tag Team title, so it's kind of a little bit more entertaining that way.
Yeah, when the natural disasters came out, when they introduced them, I'm like, there's no way that they're wearing the belts.
They didn't have waist expanders back then like they did for Big Show.
They would have had to give them those expanders that they give the really big people on airplanes.
Yeah. For the seatbelt, yeah.
So we're gonna have to charge you for double the leather.
Okay.
George, what'd you think, man?
Honestly, this was as soon as I saw the Wizards and as soon as the palm, right after the palm, I was done and I like left it running in the background and I walked away. So I did not watch it.
It was actually not a terrible match. Like John Tenta and Typhoon, I can't remember his real name, were really, I mean, they were good. And this was something I learned a few years ago. John Tenta was a sumo wrestler. Like, he was an accomplished sumo wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, the match wasn't bad. You know, it was what you kind of expect from guys like this, but yeah, I didn't think it was bad.
All right, so I got a little piece of fun information and fun factoid for you. So while I went back and I went to Wikipedia to look up the names. So the Beverly brothers did have names. It was Bo and Blank. I mean Balake.
Balake.
Yeah, and then Typhoon also is Fred Ottman, which is more known specifically for being the Shockmaster.
That's right. He was the Shockmaster.
Also known as the shittiest introduction ever in WCW history.
That's right. I forgot about him.
But it's you know, and looking back at this a little bit too, I'm sitting here looking at like most of the wrestlers on the card, like they were a lot of these were a lot of guys that kind of like going back to the ageism thing I was talking about earlier. Especially because we'll talk about it during we're going to talk about it more during the Ultimate Warrior match with Randy Savage. But these are some guys that are aging out of the WWE's youth system, younger generation stars. Like about half of this actual card is going to be in WCW within the next 2 to 3 years.
That's right. Yeah, this builds kind of that early couple of stables for WCW, including Earthquake, John Tenta coming over as the Shark.
Never understood.
Yeah, me neither. But I liked Uncle, what was it that Dusty Rhodes called him? Uncle Fred. And
yeah, Uncle Fred.
Yeah, aka Tugboat.
Toot toot.
God, the gimmicky shit was just so hokey. But yeah, like the natural disasters were over. Dude, that crowd when they won the match, and could you imagine being the Beverly brother who was going to get sat on by John Tenta?
You can never prepare for that.
No.
As always, those type of spots always creep me out, especially when like it was Yokozuna or like Viscera. When they would set up for spots like that where you just like lay all the weight out, like there's only so much control you can have over that, right? And so you try not to injure anybody, but man, I feel like there's a lot more crushed ribs than actually documented and reported over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's go ahead and let's rate this match. We're gonna start with George over there, which I love your name. How about them 1-0 Cowboys? I appreciate that. What'd you
Dang, you skipped you renamed him.
No, I could do that. Lathan, can you see your name?
I did see my name. Earthquake's taint.
Earthquake taint so bad.
I like that.
Oh shit. So yeah, George, what'd you give the match?
All right, so I gave this a poem. Did this match suck? I did not watch. Didn't give a duck. Skipped the match. I didn't rhyme. I don't go fuck. No score.
I believe that is called a haiku.
Not too bad, sir.
So we gotta give it a note. We gotta give it a rating.
3.
3.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was entertained.
Okay.
Entertained.
I was entertained. God, just had that picture when Tenta sits on the dude and they got like that straight shot of him just legs open, like Jesus.
Just out there. All it is full morning glory.
Morning is in sadness. So George, go ahead. What'd you give it?
I'll give it a 1.5 from what I watched of it.
Okay. It wasn't terrible, but Okay.
That's good back and forth to it if you actually watched it.
Yeah.
In fairness.
Yeah. So,
But again, that's me not watching it. Like it was in the background, kind of thing.
Lathan. So, what was your score?
Man, this was a 3. That was good.
Yeah,
I liked it.
It wasn't bad. I gave it a 2.45. It wasn't terrible. My confusion throughout the match on who the Beverlys were, which I still think that the one with the mustache was Joe Diffie, rest in peace. But it wasn't terrible, and it reminded me like Earthquake Typhoon. They were over, and really it was kind of interesting. Like when they first started as a tag team, they were like super heels, and for them to be able to become baby faces in this with that crowd, I'll give them credit where credit's due. I thought it was good. So next up, we got George's favorite. We got Mean Gene interviewing the Bushwhackers. And
or some more hometown delights.
Yeah. I thought I put my note in here. My note was silly shit but fun.
Which is the Bushwhackers.
Yeah. Which is weird.
That's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and George, I don't know if you know this, you'd probably go back and look it up on YouTube and stuff. Like the Bushwhackers prior to coming to the WWF were like they were hardcore wrestlers. And they were like the blood and guts style wrestling before they came. They were the what were they called? Like the sheep herders or something. They were they were like the blood, like covering the faces and teeth knocked out. Like it was So it's kind of a complete 180 for what they ended up becoming. It was I like the kind of goofy Bushwhacker shit.
I always like that they would walk around licking people's faces. I'm like, that doesn't fly in this day and age. But man, it was so entertaining back then.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like some of the stuff they were saying in the interview where it's like, oh, we got to sit on the royal throne. Oh, we got to like. I wonder if the British, like sitting there in the audience, were like offended, like they're thinking like these guys are making fun of them, and they're from not Australia, they're Kiwis, they're
New Zealand.
And so I wonder like if the British were sitting there like kind of getting pissed off about it. That'd be like somebody coming in like Goofy being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sit at the president's desk, and I'm gonna sit at the head of Congress, and I'm gonna have dinner. Like, okay, that's like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, maybe it was like poking fun at him a little bit, but that's easier to do back then. Nobody was too butthurt or offended. You just knew it was what it was.
That's true.
Entertainment.
That's true. 1992, nobody probably gave a shit. 2023, you would have a bunch of people who were offended. All right. Next thing up was another Lord Alfred Hayes. This time he's with the door for the Ultimate Warrior. And this is where we talked about earlier, Lathan and making fun of the hand, just a baby oil hand shutting the door. And the only note I have for this was just make it stop.
Why is this here?
Maybe this was just so they could get a moment to have Lord Alfred. You know
what? And when I saw that, like, I don't know if it was just me or maybe bad lighting, but to me it looked like it was a dark skinned hand. Like it couldn't have been the Warriors or Mr. Perfect hand.
It may have been. I mean, I don't know many dark skinned people who have dark skinned palms, but I
mean, it's not like see. Mine's a little brown.
We'll use me as research evidence on this one.
Well, mine, like, I wouldn't say mine's like completely pale, but it's a little. It's
like it's got a little.
But there will be a difference.
Our hands are just like the color palette as it progresses. But yeah, the Lord Alfred Hayes stuff was just fucking hokey and
Like
I didn't mind it. It
was
felt
there.
very 90s. So I was kind of like, yeah, it's on pars for the 90s, early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose. But with that, we're going to take our first scheduled commercial break, and we will be back with y'all here in a minute for our next unfortunate match that we have to discuss. So we'll be right back.
A Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, special thank you to our sponsor who has yet to give us any money. But next up, we have the Repo Man versus Crush. This came off very much like this is a Summerslam squash match, but it wasn't bad. It was bad. It wasn't good, but it was not good. I don't know. I don't know how to describe this match, but was Lathan, let me ask you, because I know George isn't going to have any fucking clue. Repo Man, he was part of Demolition, right?
No.
Yes, he was.
Oh, yeah, he was. Yeah. Oh, that's my bad. Yeah. He that was Barry Darso. He was also Blacktop Bully, which nobody ever remembers, but he was Smash originally in the Demolition.
Watching this match, all I could think was, holy shit, Crush's hair is back in style. We're 31 years later, and it's in style.
All right, I gotta tell you, I was back in East Texas yesterday, and man, those mullets were flowing out there. It was absolutely beautiful. Just all these different hairstyles and different variations of mullets. Just like it was luxurious. It reminded me of the early '90s all over again. It's funny how styles come back around. So ebbs and flows every like 30 years. It comes back. It's back in style already. Acid wash jeans are going to be next. You watch.
Make acid wash great again. Fuck, but yeah, this match, like Crush. I remember him later on, like part of the DOA and all of that. I remember him later on. I forgot about like his early inception where he's from Hawaii and he's doing the brah thing and but dude was really athletic, like jumping over the top rope and landing on the outside of the ring and doing stuff like that. But there wasn't much to this match. I had two notes. It was about the mullet and that Repo Man was part of Demolition. Yep. I gave it a 1 star. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't not terrible.
See, I was gonna say I was halfway on the same wavelength as you on this one. Like, it's not a good match, but for what it's worth, I'm more nostalgically attached to Crush post Crush, and got reintroduced to Crush later on in his career. Like, I remember Bryan Adams in the later WWF Attitude Era in DOA, but then he went over to WCW.
Adam Bomb,
Adam, the NWO, A-Bomb,
yeah,
and then he did a tag team with Chronic.
Yeah,
he was one half of Chronic, and so it was one of those funny things. Like, I remember seeing this guy, and then I go and turn around and see this guy, Billy Ray Cyrus, in like an orange and purple jumpsuit real quick. I'm like, this is not the same person. Like, this can't be the same person. But then you go and see, like, it's just like the longevity of some of these people and their reinventions because they can jump from federation to federation made it a lot more interesting when you look back at it.
George, what'd you
think?
And
how they actually adjusted to the times too in the period, because early '90s they were gimmicks. right? They were occupations. They were adjectives and pronouns. Then, like in the late '90s Attitude Era, they're the real names. They're more badass. They got more of an edge, and so it goes to show, you know, if you are creative enough, you can always reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see my name? Billy Ray Citrus.
We're having too much fun with this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Crush
George,
soda.
what'd you think?
There was nothing memorable about this match for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like horrible. Like clearly there was more horrible matches. But yeah, I don't have much on this one. I did the Repo Man. I was trying to remember. I know I've heard him, and I must have seen him somewhere else. But I also don't have a lot of memory on him.
No, look. So the Repo Man wrestler,
the one that came for my vehicle.
Yeah, different guy.
Okay.
Yeah. If he's dressed up like that Repo Man, you need to call the cops because that is not the right person. That is not it.
The guy who came and took your car, different guy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I gave this one a 1 star. Latham, what'd you give it?
I gave it another poop emoji.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad. It was a 1. I definitely give it a 1. Like I said, it's just one of those that I mean, looking at the card in this in its totality, like it looks like, you know, this is kind of one of those like restroom break matches before we hype you up for the next big match that's coming up, right? Like it's, and I think I'm starting to see the pattern going on here. Like they set you up like the Legion, for what it was worth, like Legion of Doom Money Inc. was supposed to be a big match to get you hyped up, right? And then you have Nails versus Virgil breath break match. Like they kind of give you enough time to relax and settle back in before exhausting you out and make you super excited for another match because it looks like it's flowing that way naturally. So you just know this is one of those bumper matches that just kind of let you go use the loo and then go get your snacks and come on back so you can get ready for the next match.
I was like, what do you mean use some lube? Oh, lube. Oh,
lube.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm being British, mate. Oh, that was horrible.
All right, I don't appreciate your cultural appropriation, but anyway, George, what'd you give it?
He didn't watch it.
I'm gonna give it a 0 because I couldn't even remember something to hate about it. At least the other matches made me hate something about it.
He's gonna give it a 0 because that's how many payments he made before the Repo Man took his car.
We just we triggered him just in this conversation.
Oh man. All right, so next up we actually finally have like a marquee matchup for this this event. We have the Macho Man, oh yeah, against the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF Championship. Seems kind of weird this match fell middle of the card. We're at like 75% of the card. But it was a big matchup. And it was a good match. And I don't really say that a lot of times about Ultimate Warrior matches because they're never going to be like Iron Man style matches and everything, but it was good. We got both the guys their entrances. They were playing up the storyline that we've been watching throughout the show. Who is going to utilize Mr. Perfect in their corner to get the upper hand? And you know, they're waiting like, oh, you know, who's come? Oh, the Ultimate Warrior comes out. Oh, Mr. Perfect's not with him. It must be Macho Man. Macho Man comes out. Oh, he's not with him. Blah, blah, blah. My first thing is, who the fuck told the Ultimate Warrior that it would be a good idea to wear a meat singlet? Like that, he came out looking like a fucking uncooked ham.
Oh man,
He came out looking like a Ken doll with no skin, because even in the groin area, it's just like smooth, like a Ken fucking doll. Like, who told him that was a good idea?
Oh man, this is a horrible outfit for the night. And yeah, it was all types of weird going into it. I'm like, why are you dude, you're in shape, you're sub 10% body fat. Why are you airbrushing abs on a singlet? Like, you're jacked. You are naturally jacked. Oh,
but not even abs. It was like the meat. Like,
yeah, just the meat.
They showed the promo and the build for the match and everything, and he was wearing like a singlet with like the airbrushed tattoos and all, or not tattoos, I'm sorry, the airbrushed muscles and all of that. Okay, cool. You want to wear that? That's fine. He came into this one wearing a fucking airbrushed, like skinless, like Jeffrey Dahmer kind of skinless bodysuit.
What if that was actually somebody else's skin this whole time? We thought it was a. You thought this was an outfit? No. This is literally somebody's skin I cut.
It was.
I mean, to be fair, if it was anybody to do something like that, well, it would be the Ultimate Warrior. So, no, take that for what it's worth too. Oh man, yeah, you're right though. This was for the longevity of the match. Probably one of the Ultimate Warrior's better matches, but when you're sitting across the ring from Randy Savage, you're going to have a decent match at best. Like, easily a 3-star match because he's so creative on the way he would work the ring, the chemistry in the ring. It did get a slightly long in the tooth for me a little bit, just because of all the extra interference outside the ring.
Yeah.
And it just kind of left you confused on what was really going on. Like, it could have been booked slightly better, being 33 years or 31 years later, looking back at it. But at the same time, like, if you look at the time, literally, this is the longest match on the show, and that's 28 minutes from bell to bell.
Wow.
Yeah, just to have the finish it did, it kind of left me slightly disappointed, but at the same time, I'm like, this is still entertaining most of it all the way through. Because I love Mr. Perfect, I love Ric Flair, I love Macho Man. Ultimate Warrior is a unique individual himself for career spans, but like all the pieces were there to have the good match you wanted to have and play into the story of what they were trying to tell. It just had moments where it just ran a little bit longer than it should have. But yeah.
George, what do you think about Meat Suit Ultimate Warrior?
Listen here, brother. You talking about the SummerSlam that we thought we would never see? This is the SummerSlam that I wanted to see. This is where the pay-per-view actually started for me. Those people from British Columbia are not, that's not where they're from, right? No. Okay.
There it is. There it is.
What the fuck?
There it is. There it is. I was wondering where that would fall, where the fuck up would fall into.
Finally.
This week.
Finally.
There it is.
Crap, man. I was going so well in my head
rolling.
too.
Right here. Right here in the Silver Dome. I'm sorry, I'm in Superdome.
This honestly was a really good matchup for me. I was entertained. Even the singlet entertained me, and more people need to come out like that. I'll tell you that. And I was also thinking, like, why doesn't anybody wear any more, like, what are those called? Dazzles?
Castles?
Yeah, like those like kept me entertained too. I don't know.
And maybe this is just me because I'm starting to think that I may be on the autism spectrum. Did y'all notice that the Ultimate Warrior's tassels matched Macho Man's attire?
Yeah, but I was looking at that and it's kind of, there's pieces like that in the show that remind me exactly what day and age I'm actually watching this in, because there's a lot of loud fucking colors in these outfits. Like even with Crush, I was like, dude, these are some really out like neon colors are bright as fuck. And I'm like, this is definitely a different time in day and age when that was some cool styles to pull off.
When I was watching Macho Man, the only thing I could think is like, okay, how are we designing his outfit? Macho Man goes to the designer and goes, let me tell you something. Yeah. You ever seen the music video for Kokomo? Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. Like, all right. I want to wear.
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
I want to wear Kokomo.
I want to wear Kokomo. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to look at it. I want to see it. I want to smell Kokomo. Yeah. Well, you know, Kokomo's not a real place. Then where are the Beach Boys singing about? Yeah. Can we all just take a minute once again to appreciate the beauty of the Winged Eagle Championship? Can we just take a
so
second?
beautiful. Yeah.
Man, like just so good. Like I love that belt so much. It's just great match. Great match for what it was. I guess Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect were the heels in this match because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Ultimate Warrior was a babyface. Macho Man's a babyface. So I'm going to go along the idea that.
Oh, you know what I think this was? Hold on. Oh, I'll have to look this back up and verify this. I think this was Ultimate Warrior's last match before he got fired. The first time around.
Was this when he held Vince McMahon hostage?
Yeah, and then Vince McMahon gave him the letter afterwards and said, "Here's your money." Gave him the letter that said he was fired.
Yeah,
because this, I think this leads into the Ric Flair Macho Man World Title match that they had.
That was at WrestleMania, but
was that before this one, or was it going into the next one?
No, that was before this one. That was at I believe. I mean, I may be wrong. I think that was the WrestleMania because at Royal Rumble, Ric Flair won the championship, and then at WrestleMania, Macho Man beat Ric Flair. But yeah, you may be right. This may have been when Ultimate Warrior held up Vince McMahon for more money. Well, we might as well with this while we have the research department on it. We're going to go ahead and take another commercial break, and we'll be back with the answer on if this is that show or not.
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
Welcome back, everybody, from the last commercial break from Homeboy over here on the side, who never invites us back on his show after the last time. So
we all know the incident.
Look, we don't need to. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So, speaking of the incident, I really miss good old fashioned pile drivers. Do y'all?
Yeah, I love some. I love seeing that accidental neck break.
The Ultimate Warrior looks super happy to take a pile driver there. Did y'all notice the Ultimate Warrior had a tattoo of himself on his arm?
Yeah, and then he also this is a year out from when he actually trademarked his name and legally changed it to Warrior.
Well, I knew that, and that's one thing, but the dude had a full like tattoo of himself on his own arm.
He's committed to loving himself as the character that he loved to be. I mean, realistically, if I get a tattoo of art on my arm, I would totally do it. But there's people in my life that would frown against it. Mainly your wife, but you know.
Well, no, those are just.
I would totally do it.
You should never listen to the haters. You do you, boo.
Oh man,
I've had many thoughts of tattooing this little guy on myself.
Ah! Dude, I'm gonna get the duck tattoo on my right. Oh man. So the match was really good. It ended in a fucking count out. Like, how many matches is this now that have ended in like a count out tonight? Like, is this the second one? Like on Summerslam, Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels ended a double count out.
Was it a count out or a disqualification?
It was a double count out.
Yeah.
So we're now out of 5 matches on SummerSlam? SummerSlam, not, some random pay-per-view during the year. You had 2 countouts and that's how your matches end?
For the way
I kind of miss
it was really weird that we had so many finishes like especially for championship matches. Like that doesn't make sense. There's always a definitive winner.
Here comes George to say some bullshit about how he thinks that it's a good idea.
I kind of miss a good old-fashioned count out.
Doesn't give a shit about pile drivers, but you know what? I miss the count out.
It's because nowadays it's like 7, 8, and the count is broken. Like somebody's gonna get up and they're like all fucking like, oh my god, and all of a sudden, back in the ring.
They torpedo themselves into the ring.
Or they do a quick one of these. 1, 2.
He broke the count. All right, so let's go ahead and rate this match. So let's start it off with George before Lathan interrupts and does it. So go ahead, George. Is that a butthole with arms?
All right, I'm interrupting now.
Sensational Sherry. No, I think this one I'm definitely going with a 3.2. 3.2. I was fully entertained, and I didn't even mind the count out or whatever happened with the Ric Flair and the Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, the shenanigans.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lathan, what'd you give it, man?
I'll rate this with my nostalgic childlike heart for the entertainment Macho Man has given me over the years, and the way that he could carry a match with Ultimate Warrior, especially at this time. Definitely gonna give this one a 3.7. So it was a good match.
Okay.
For all its flaws, looking into it, like it was still entertaining completely all the way through. Yeah, especially Ultimate Warrior hulking up. I mean, warrioring up.
Yeah, I thought that too. Watching it, I was like, "Is he hulking up?"
Yeah, he's got his own little charger pack. That's what he's doing. So it was what it is, and it worked out pretty good. Like and then it's interesting too, thinking about like the transitional phase he was supposed to be in, like hulking up being the reference point of it is that he was supposed to be the transitional character that was supposed to replace Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan is not in the company right now, and so he was supposed to be that figure that would replace that same electrical type of energy. That's why he had the quick matches. He's not built for longevity in the match. He's not your technical wrestler that's going to give you a 60-minute spectacle. You know what I mean? Not like a Bret Hart or Ric Flair. But it was still good to see that he can still have the ability to run that long without being completely winded, because you could tell there were pockets where he got kind of tired, but he still persevered and gave it his all. So
yeah,
definitely had to give him credit for it.
Yeah, there were a few times watching it, and you're like, man, that dude, he's getting winded.
Yeah,
but I think we're kind of all in agreement here. I give it a 3.9. It was a good match. It was entertaining. The Ric Flair with Mr. Perfect stuff was contributed to the match. It wasn't just like, side bullshit. It was part of everything. And It was a pretty good, decent match on there. So our next match that we have, unfortunately, is another PP break for the or a Lou, as Lathan likes to call it. So we have Kamala versus The Undertaker. And I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't realize this match was gonna be on there. And I kind of got excited thinking about, seeing like 1992 Undertaker, Kamala. I like the character of Kamala. And the Undertaker's entrance riding out on the hearse. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, this is gonna be a good match. And then it wasn't. And then it was just a whole bunch of Undertaker throat thrusts and kimchi, not the food, the person who Lathan alluded to earlier. He's like, who the fuck is kimchi? I had to look it up. I had to look up who kimchi was underneath the mask.
Brooklyn Brawler.
That is a man known as Steve Lombardi, also known as the Brooklyn Brawler. This was this around the time when they started like feeding the Undertaker like these like giants and big guys for him to beat?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the leading into it at least, because this is 90. Like again, it's 92. He's not so far. He's starting out with the company and trying to still become a little bit bigger and keep his character more thriving in a different way. Because remember, like think about all the characters though, like occupational characters, and so like you do have everybody's got some kind of gimmick, right? And so you just try to feed into that gimmick, and whichever gimmick seems to get over the most, just like keep on feeding that gimmick and pushing that one up to the forefront. And this is clearly in this particular era, Undertaker is one of those that's getting a better push or consistency. It looks like,
yeah,
on at least on the character front. So,
well, I know that there was that period where they kept like having the Undertaker face off against guys who were just big guys, and it was really kind of awkward.
King Mabel, Yokozuna,
Giant Gonzalez,
for what it's worth.
Yeah. So I didn't know if this was during that time or leading up to it or what, but I asked my wife this earlier because I had her come in and she caught the end of Kamala coming in, and I asked her, I was like, so the Kamala character, is it racist?
No. Kinda. No. No, it's just a character. He's from the Ugandan jungle, wherever the fuck that is. We assume it's in Africa because he's black.
Well, because they said he's from the dark continent.
Well, I'm not making any assumptions.
Well, and this is what I told Allison. She asked, she's like, "Oh, that's pretty bad." And we're not a PC household and stuff, but Kamala was a creation of the man portraying him, because Kamala was down in like WCCW. He had been in Mid-South. So he was a creation of the man, not like, hey, you're a big black guy, let me put you as a African savage. You know,
so, like it's his own natural satire that he brought. Like it's like if Vince McMahon came out and said like, hey, let's put you in like a little skirt and give you a Ooga Booga in a African mask. Like, okay, I can see where there'd be some tone to it, where you can say like, okay, this is maybe not the most settling character ever developed, but this is his own creation. Like, it's coming from him. It's based off of like native things that were studied at the time, you know, because it's like, remember National Geographic? You have plenty of the African tribes being like documented. So this isn't like lost on people, it's relative, right? And so that's why like it's like, no, it's not racist, it's just part of the time. Now Coco Beware, that was racist.
I don't know. Like I look at it like, and I agree with you on that. Like if Vince had said, "Hey, we're gonna do you. You're a big black guy. We're gonna put you from the dark continent of Africa, and you're gonna be some like monster." Going off of that. Okay, but this is the creation of the guy himself. And he's like, well, I mean, this is something that is a good gimmick. And it was a good character. It was a threatening character. I don't know. Like
this is not the one I hang my problematic hat on.
Right.
Especially for the time.
In the eyes of 2023, was it problematic? Maybe. In the eyes of 1992.
Well, I mean, if it's part of his culture, probably not. It's kind of like Eddie Guerrero and I lie, cheat, and steal.
I mean, I would probably use a low rider reference better, but yeah, we'll go with that too.
It's like if some random white wrestler was like, "I'm going to hit you with the mayonnaise slap," and he just gets some mayonnaise and
ooh, spicy slap.
Take some Creo seasoning in his hand and just go blow it in their eye. Oh shit! So this match was awful, and not
also the shortest match on the show.
Yeah, and not awful because of the people in it or whatever.
No, the entrance. You said it well. The entrances made it look like it was going to be a badass match.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like it was over, and like
I don't even know how it was over. Like I don't know who won or why somebody won. Like I just remember seeing Undertaker on the floor. Kamala takes a jump from the top rope, and then the bell rings. I guess there was interference, right?
Over. It was already over at that point.
Yeah. Well, who won? Or was there a pin?
No. I think the Undertaker won by disqualification.
Yeah, I think so. I know there was one of the guys in there. Now that's the messed up part. Those guys, to me, they almost seemed like they were lion tamers or something. Like they were trying to, like, make sure like Kamala doesn't go wild.
Yeah.
That to me was like the weird part.
Yeah, that's what, and Allison said that too. She's like, the actual character himself, yeah, not that bad, but the fact that he's got fucking tamers,
like handlers or something.
Yeah, that made it kind of borderline. But yeah, because Bobby Heenan makes the comment when Kamala goes off the second rope and then the top rope. Bobby Heenan goes, well, the match is already over, so it doesn't matter if he keeps beating him up. So. Yeah, I think
he's not wrong.
Yeah. So this is one, unfortunately, we do have to rate. So I'm gonna get never mind. I was gonna say something, but I'm not going to. George, what were your ratings?
Come back to me.
All right, Lathan, what you got?
Hey, George, draw a doo-doo emoji on that board of yours. This was. I love me some Undertaker. But, man, this was just a buffer match, man. Like, it just was what it was. Like, yeah, just to be let down like that. But it's okay because, again, it's the pattern of the pay-per-view is just like it's one really good match that keeps you on your feet the whole time. Then you have one that's going to let you go take a break. Then you get back up again, then you're taking a break again. So it's an ebbs and flows. It's just what it was for the night, and it kept everybody remotely entertained for what it was worth. So thank you, Psycho Pro.
George, go ahead.
Doo-doo emoji.
Oh, point two.
Oh, even better than a doo-doo emoji.
With the doo-doo emoji on the
grave. Undertaker's not getting enough from this one. Well, he did, obviously. We know his career went better. But this is my least favorite Undertaker match for sure.
Well, and this so I think this led up to the Kamala versus Undertaker casket match, right?
I mean, I would assume that so.
I think so.
This is one of those that like they wanted to put more. I mean, But it's leading up to that type of match. I can see in context why they kind of just gave the fans a show,
Yeah.
and then just gave it, and then they had a better match later on because this is clearly a called-in match. Like somebody in this match may have been going through something, not knowing the full background or context and everything. But yeah, this match should have definitely went longer than 3 minutes and 27 seconds. As a matter of fact, looking at the timekeeper reports right now, this match was shorter than the Nels versus Virgil match by 48 seconds.
Lathan,
which is atrocious.
Clutch with the numbers. Yeah. So I gave this match a 0.05, which I think is going to be the lowest rated match I ever give The Undertaker until we come along and have to worry about King Kong Bundy versus The Undertaker. So yeah, not a good match. So next up, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We've got the British Bulldog interview. And I don't remember the British Bulldog ever having great interviews. Like he was very nonchalant in this, and maybe that was the thing, and he just pulled it off really well. But when you contrast it with how Bret is in his interview, it just shows you how far above the British Bulldog Bret was for his interview superior.
That was a lot they can. I guess it's more polished every time because of Bret Hart being a little bit longer and the entertainment value of his promos with the WWF, going back to like the Hart Foundation, with him and Jim Neidhart doing a lot of the promos. Because for a while there, even though Bret was the more prominent standout athlete, like Jim Neidhart carried their promos for the most part. He's just a ball of energy, all coked up and having fun. And then he finally found his groove when it came to be able to talk. And I think Davey Boy's accent kind of made him, more insecure. Like when he goes to talk on the microphone because he has such a thick accent. So he had that working. He already had that working against him anyways, but like he made up for it in the ring.
British Bulldog is my favorite kind of bulldog. I'm talking about wrestler and dog. No, the British Bulldog for sure, man, was like one of my favorites back in the day. I don't know why. I think I just liked them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was different.
Yeah, and for sure, like I don't remember like any mic skills, and you guys know I'm a mic drama person, but I don't know what it was about him. I was a fan for sure.
Okay.
He was a big man that liked the ball. That's what it was.
This is why we get kicked off of YouTube. So, can you see my name right now?
Yeah.
Ding dong. Oh shit. So the thing we have coming up before the main event, we have the bagpipe group out, and I mean I'm white, so I love bagpipes. It was random as fuck, but it was cool. And I would rather have had Roddy Piper have a match than that, but it was cool as shit. Like, okay, they're doing the cultural stuff for Great Britain and everything with the bagpipes, and then randomly to have Roddy Piper come out and just pick up the bagpipes and he's gonna fucking go to town. Like I thought it was cool.
It left me confused. Like half of this whole fucking card.
It was a PP.
I was like,
leave it alone.
I know. I was like, well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because going back and looking at this, so we talked about off camera. We talked about there was like 2 dark matches. There was actually 3 dark matches. The other dark match was in between the main event and the Undertaker match. 5 minutes 46 seconds. The Tonka versus the Berserker.
Wow!
And then we had the bagpipes also.
I feel like we missed out on some good matches for them being dark.
Yeah, this is not a pee break. This is, hey, you may be eating too many fish and chips. Go ahead and take a shit break. because this was
the malt vinegar.
but like it was like I'm like, dude, these are some interesting matches that didn't make the card that only they got exclusively. So I can get why they were still somewhat excited there because they had some good matches for what it was worth, but they just didn't realize what was on TV and what wasn't for them. But for us, we got hosed.
I love me some bagpipes. I'm just kidding. Roddy Piper coming out and doing it. I don't know if he was really playing them, but
No, he is. He's so
he was playing them.
oh yeah, definitely. I will rate this a highlight of the match of the pay-per-view for sure.
Well, we're gonna take one more break and then get into the main event. And we are gonna be back with y'all. So we're gonna take a pee break because we're gonna pretend that it's bagpipes playing. So we'll be back with y'all here in just a couple of minutes.
A Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
All right. We had to take one more pee-pee break, just like everybody got to during this pay-per-view when they watched it live because there were about 30,000 matches that nobody cared about. So
this whole pay-per-view was a restroom break.
Oh, come on. How dare you? How dare you talk about the Legion of Doom that way? But we're coming back here.
The Lou of Doom, you mean? Sorry. I'll see myself out now.
Womp womp. Let me go ahead and mute you. But we're going to come back here and we have our main event. And I'll to kind of preface the match before we really get into it. Whenever we were recording our Canadian Stampede show, I didn't really think about the stuff that I was putting on the wheel to go. So I was like, SummerSlam 92, just going something early 90s. Not realizing like this is one of the biggest SummerSlams ever with Bret Hart versus Davey Boy Smith. Like this is an iconic show. This is an iconic event. It just kind of happened to end up that this was the one we picked. So, I mean, do y'all remember this show specifically prior to actually watching it, or was this something brand new to you?
Is it watching SummerSlam show or watching Canadian Stampede?
No, watching this one. We all know, we've all heard about the Bret Hart versus Davey Boy Smith at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
SummerSlam. I mean, it was something that I remember forever knowing about, but I had never watched the actual show.
No, I never watched it. I remember I was talking to George about it just a while ago, waiting to come back. Like the one thing I more specifically always remember is that they always tied family into it's speaking of Fast and Furious. They always tied some kind of family reference into like a Bret Hart and like Davey Boy Smith type of match, and completely forgot that this was part of it. So it was good. It was cool, and especially for the way it ended and everything too. Like it was a really good match across the board. But yeah, I remember again clips, but never watched it all the way through until now.
George, any memories or anything about this main event?
Memories, no. This is the first time I watched it. I know it's been talked about. They always, I remember that they used to say or reference back to it, or reference matches with Bret Hart and British Bulldog. But this is the first time I was watching it, so it was like I liked it a lot. So this match could have kept going for me. This match and Warrior and Randy Savages. Could have been the whole pay-per-view for me, and it would have been a SummerSlam.
Yeah. You know what was weird? What was weird was Lennox Lewis coming out randomly, and maybe I guess in the moment it would have made more sense, but 31 years later, I'm like, one, I didn't know Lennox Lewis was British. Two, that just randomly for him to carry the flag out and then be done, like gone, he's not part of anything, was pretty random.
That sounds like half of the show, if you think about it.
Touche.
Like fucking bagpipes and bushwhackers and bushwhacker promos and nasty boy promos. I'm like, what? Why is this here?
Bushwhacking nasty boys with bagpipes and just all.
Yeah. You know, for people that are complaining about it not being in a tag team match, they are here dressed up, ready to wrestle, and not be using a tag team match. Call me crazy. This is weird. But no, I mean, so one big takeaway I've noticed with this too is that like the international crowd is a lot different from the American fan base. Like when it comes, whether it be in Canada or it be across the pond, like these people are, I guess we're spoiled with the notion that we get more saturated with constant shows being given to us where we can just go travel to them. Like when it seems like these are destinations at this point, right? For like when being here tonight, because was this the first show and since the AEW, this was the only show that they had over there. And so when they come out, they're appreciative and they show more fanfare and enjoyment of the show versus like sometimes we can get kind of not lustered down, but like we don't show as much excitement or appreciation for the show we're watching because we see it all the time.
Yeah, we get kind of saturated. We get just kind of complacent with the ability to go see them when they come close. Like here in Central Texas, they come to Austin, they come to San Antonio, they go to Houston, they go to Dallas, they go to Corpus. You have 5 options really for big shows that are within an hour and a half to 2 hour drives, so yeah, I agree with you on that. I think UK gets pretty psyched up for shows and the, especially the guys and seeing them, especially when you have the British Bulldog, who's a hometown guy, which I find weird. I find it weird because you think about it, like bringing it down to kind of something that we can look at, and it would be like psyched up because, hey, that dude's from the United States, being that like into it and that hardcore into it because he's from the United States. And I don't see myself getting that excited for that, but
yeah,
I get it. It was good. I really think so. Bret seems to always elevate titles. I've never been a huge Bret Hart fan. I almost said Bret Favre, which kind of I've never been a huge Bret Hart fan, but man, it just seems like every time he has a belt around his waist, that title is just elevated from what it is,
Mm-hmm. I give him better representation for what it's supposed to represent. Sure. I mean, that's Bret Hart, and that's his gimmick. That's what he likes to do. And it worked his benefit a lot of time, but it also worked his detriment towards the end of his career. But I mean, like it's always fun to be able to appreciate a title for what it's worth. Because the Intercontinental title, what is it, the workhorse title? It's the title that typically it's going to take you to the next level as a main eventer, but it shows that you can run long in the tooth with matches. You can keep your endurance up. You can put on a show and work your ass off day in, night out, and put on a 5-star match whenever you want to. Yeah. So it definitely gave it the promise that it needed to have especially for the time, because you didn't see it was also still one of the times where you didn't see the WWF title as much. So you had the Intercontinental title represented better. Bret Hart has his moments where like he can be kind of douchey and kind of unsettling, but when it came to giving the title the respect it should have, I think I give him a lot of credit for doing that from Stu Hart. Like growing up under Stu and like having the titles in Canada, with how you're supposed to act how you're supposed to hold yourself as a champion, to a certain extent. Yeah.
George, what'd you think, man?
Of the match itself, or about Bret Hart and his titles?
Yes. Well, no.
Uh,
So about about the idea of Bret Hart elevating the championship.
Well, we kind of talked about it in the last podcast, where we talked about Bret Hart.
What? The watching this match, it kind of reminded me just how good the British Bulldog was. For a big guy, watching him do the kip ups and stuff, and them do the exchanges with the arms, being twisted and everything. That was pretty awesome. Like it reminded me how good of an athlete the British Bulldog was. He may not have been that good on the mic. He may not have had that much ability on the microphone, but man, the dude could go. And especially with Bret Hart, a much smaller guy.
Man, listen, go out of your way to go watch some of his matches with his tag team partner at the time was the Dynamite Kid. Yeah, the British Bulldogs. They were quite entertaining. For both of them being as stout and strong as they were super athletic and super over. Especially in Canada and in the UK. Phenomenal wrestlers at the time. Dangerous as shit, but like phenomenal wrestlers also.
Yeah. Was it
some classics.
Was it a miss that the British Bulldog was never WWE champion?
No, not necessarily. It's kind of like he was talented enough that he didn't need a title. He just knew when. It's sort of like Razor Ramon. Like Razor Ramon was, for all intents and purposes, Scott Hall was super great in the ring technically, and definitely could put on an entertaining match. But he didn't necessarily need the WWE title to define his career. So, in my personal opinion, he never needed the WWF title, but to herald the other tertiary titles like the European title, the Intercontinental title, especially the way he won them, gave it even more prominence. So he still had his role that he played.
Shit. I was trying to write a closing statement for the whole '92 SummerSlam. But this match for sure, like I kind of said, when I was saying when Arthur walked away, I know I said a lot there, but British Bulldog and Bret Hart here was definitely they could have kept going, and I would have completely enjoyed it. They both had like that technical wrestling, and I'm a fan of both. So this was a great match.
The match was phenomenal. And normally I'm not a fan of like really kind of slow paced matches and stuff, but this one really kind of told a story on how it would get a quick pace. They could fight, they could go back and forth, and then it would be like a headlock and it almost storytelling where Bret Hart knew the British Bulldog was bigger, stronger, but Bret Hart could outthink him. So, you'd get the random sleeper holds. You'd get the random on the ground, the side headlocks. You would get the stuff that Bret knew he needed to do to try to bring down the British Bulldog because he was stronger. He was gonna hit the more powerful moves, and Bret had to keep him grounded, which I really liked. I like I said, I normally don't like slower paced matches, but this one was good. It really told a story on how Bret was
Holly
trying to win.
Sorry, my dog started grabbing the food.
Oh, I didn't know if you were agreeing with me or arguing with me. Shit.
Sorry, I'm all good now.
Well, I'm just wondering, do we have any comments to what I was saying about the pace of the match?
It went long, and so it was precisely paced the right way, I would say, because it's like you can keep on going, but then you need those headlock rest hold moments, catch your breath, and then from what it looks like, the one thing I do appreciate for the most part is it looks like the whole match was talked out in the ring. Like there was no necessary prep time It was just like they kept going and going, and actually put together a real articulated match, beat by beat in the middle of the ring instead of having to choreograph it outside the ring. But
Yeah, or
definitely,
like too much like laying down, like where they knock each other out and they just lay for a while. Like it was a long match, but it didn't feel long. Like in other matches where it's like, okay, come on, come on.
Yeah, exactly. It was a slower pace, but it didn't feel like it was a slow pace. But did y'all think that fucking crowd kept having those air horns and they kept doing the
Yeah,
like let's go, like they kept fucking doing it. And it got to the point I'm like, all right, just fucking stop. Like
that, and also that reminds me at the Shawn Michaels match, like there was like a whistle. There was a bunch of like, and I was like, who's whistling? At first, I thought it was my son's iPad. I was like, turn that off. But but yeah, they kept doing that, and they kept also talking over each other a lot, like where the commentator was talking and the ring announcer was talking in the back. Ming Jean, it just seemed like they were talking. They haven't gotten that in sync yet.
yeah. Yeah, and I so this match reminded me how good Bobby the Brain Heenan was on heel commentary, and especially when you start comparing it to Jerry the King Lawler early on, like we were talking about with a couple of shows ago about how just annoying Jerry Lawler was with his heel commentary, where he took it over the limit, over the line. Bobby the Brain Heenan just seemed to he walked that line perfectly, and it made me think like, what if we could have gotten Bobby the Brain Heenan with like Attitude Era JR? How good would that have been?
oh man, that would have probably taken even more over the top. Just with the precise energy that they give off, especially those big. But in like, listen, when the main event ends with Pyro and it closes the show, you knew that JR would have some really big excitement to go along with it to really carry it over. Yeah, this would have been one of those good times. Good times.
Yeah. George, any thoughts?
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I kind of like Jerry's over the line kind of stuff too, but I just a few smart comments that Bobby the Brain was saying, I would it would probably be like awesome, the whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
So here we come with the finish of the match.
I just don't like thinking on the what ifs, that's or the what could have been. Like it just doesn't make me feel like good or no, I don't know.
No, I get that. I get that. It's just kind of a thought like we've done a few times before, kind of the fantasy booking with stuff like, well, what if, this had happened or this, and just the idea of Jerry Lawler being gone, Bobby the Brain Heenan doing kind of the same heel commentary, which the heel commentary that Bobby the Brain Heenan did in 1992 could have gone well with the Attitude Era in like 96, 7, 8, 9, which he did in WCW. Now, he didn't have, the heel commentary style in WCW with it, but they would have done very well together. But I get George's point. You don't want to you fantasy book to an extent, but you start getting into stuff too far and you go down a rabbit hole where the Illuminati are causing global warming and stuff. So I'm not usually a fan of the ending of this match, or the style of ending that we had in this match with the quick roll up style and end it. But man, it kind of
You're more of a count out kind of guy, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm that guy standing there like 8, 9.
Damn it, they made it back in. They made it back in.
For matches like this, I want a solid
definitive winner.
Like I want that quick end exchange back and forth. Who's going to win? like WrestleMania 14. Super kick, caught, spin, stunner, missed, come back, super kick, boom, stunner, it's over. It's, I like that kind of style. This one I kind of popped for. I kind of marked out for the British Bulldog winning this one because it wasn't expected. I liked it. I was here for it. I liked the ending.
Dude, okay, so I'm sitting here. When we were talking, as I was talking it out, talking about how it was scripted in the ring, like they kind of choreographed like a flow. It made me remember something I remember hearing from a Bret Hart story about a decade ago. So apparently, well, I'm right, but the context of why I'm right in this scenario is because Davey Boy was really fucked up. There's actually Bret Hart has a shoot interview he did with Between the Ropes where he reiterates this story. But two things go into this for really interesting context, which actually changes my mind a little bit more on why I ranked this match, so I'm going to rank it. The original plan for this match wasn't even Davey Boy Smith. The original plan for this match was a ladder match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels for the IC title. But then Bret Hart went to Vince and said, well, listen, we're in the UK. Davey Boy is a hometown hero. Let's just drop it to him. And it kind of just ran from there. But however, knowing that this is the early 90s and people did what they did and had fun and medicated themselves on the road, apparently Davey Boy was really heavy into this at the time and completely forgot what they had actually originally talked out during production.
Oh, shit. I remembered that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, that's right. Dave was high as a kite the whole time. And then they basically, Bret Hart carried this entire match and helped Davey Boy get to this moment, which kind of gives a little bit more badassness to it, honestly. So for that, I'll go ahead and fast track this to the rankings or ratings of the match. It's a 5. It's a 5-star match.
Wow.
Roll up and everything.
Wow. Okay.
Listen, when you can get Whitney Houston on steroids through a full 35-minute match and everybody looks better on the other side, then good job.
Damn.
Solid work.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's go ahead. So Lathan's going to give it that 5-star. George, what do you give it, man?
Well, I kind of gave the rating when you walked away, but
good.
I'm gonna go ahead and go 4.35 now. I think I'm changing it up from when I first gave it, but 4.35.
Okay. Yeah, I gave this match a 4.67. This, and if I had known that Davey Boy was high on crack, which you're right, he was, I may have given it a higher rating because damn. All right, so that ends the show. So let's go ahead and give it the whole thing our overall ratings. Let's go ahead and start with Lathan. What are we going to give it? Whole overall show.
I'll give it a 3. That was good. It was a good international show. And from what we know about statistical international shows, you're going to give some good performances and have some half-ass performances so everybody can make some money. And so this is exactly what the epitome of all that was. So I give it what it's supposed to be. 3 stars.
Okay. That's I'm not going to argue with that. George, what you got, man? Let's see the unveiling.
I give it a SummerSlam in '92. It wasn't all good. Most of it was poo, but I'll give it a 2.62.
All right, doing his best Lene Poffo impersonation. So
that was genius.
Yeah,
the brain.
I gave it a.
The brain was working.
So I'm gonna give it 2 scores, which and I'll tell you why.
2 scores.
Yep. So hold on. So the
And
overall
Lathan couldn't give it a letter score?
No, absolutely not.
B- for bullshit.
No, so overall score 2.33. And the reason it's a 2.33 is that's just the average of the scores I gave for all of the matches. So you had a couple of matches that I found really good, but man, a couple of those matches were really bad. So personal score 3.59. I really found this show entertaining. Keeping in mind the context of it being 1992, I thought it was not bad. It wasn't terrible. It was I found it good. So guys, this brings us to the end, and we all know what's going to be happening now. We're going to spin the wheel, which I have edited the wheel for October, the October show, with the theme of Halloween. So the only options on the board are going to be Halloween Havoc. So we have Halloween Havoc 1997, 1998, 1999, or 2000. So we're going to spin the wheel, figure out which Halloween Havoc we're going to have on the board next month. So 1, 2, 3. Yes. Halloween Havoc 1998 is going to be the show. It was the show I was kind of hoping for, because we know what happens at Halloween Havoc 1998. Y'all remember?
I do.
Is this the Hogan versus the NBA player?
No,
It's,
Ultimate
it's
Warrior.
It's
Oh,
a
that's what that
WrestleMania
was.
6 rematch that we never wanted.
That nobody wanted. Yep.
Yeah.
With that, guys, hey, thank y'all. George, you got anything to promote?
Nah, man, the podcast Too Hard Too Fast is dead. Just kidding. It's gonna be reviving like the Undertaker. Coming up soon. Just follow, Too Hard Too Fast. Vato, with the number 2.
Lathan, you got anything good coming up?
No. I mean,
Some powerlifting stuff, man.
No, it's I'm taking this. This is the end of the year, so I'm trying to prepare myself for next year. The new schedule just came out for USPA powerlifting, so I'm strategically placing where I'm going to be in the next few months going into 2024, and for the most part, just reconstructing a couple of different things on a personal level. But yeah, nothing too crazy. So big things are coming down the pike. Just got to put everything in order for it. Hell yeah. And my wedding anniversary is next month, so 5 years of immaculate patience from my wife for not killing me yet.
We do love Anna.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
5 years married, 7 years in the hole. So got a true testament of what patience and perseverance can look like.
Speaking of patience, I'm not going to make a joke about you making a saying in the hole. So with that, guys, love y'all. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody out there, thank you so much for watching, for listening. We will see y'all in October for Halloween Havoc 1998. Thank y'all so much. Adios.
Peace.